Hello, everyone.
Hello, madam.
Hello,
Good
madam.
evening.
Evening, madam.
Good evening, madam.
Please, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you,
You
madam.
are fine, thank you.
Okay, I'll be your facilitator for English language today. We have a minute to wait, so let's wait for your colleagues.
All right, madam.
I'm sharing my screen. Please, can you see it?
Yes, madam.
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, so the class is starting now. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm your facilitator for English language. My name is Regina Mensah. You can call me Miss Regina. That'll be fine. I'm sure with time I'll get to know your names. And yeah. So, but before we start, to let you know that your course outline hopefully will be ready next week and it will be posted to you. Today is an introductory class. I want to find out what you expect from this course and then also to introduce you to English language in general before we move to the specifics of the outline. So the floor is opened. What are your expectations? Should I call names? Sir Gabriel Ado, please, what's your expectation? Hello.
Hello, madam.
All right. I asked a question. Please, did you hear?
No, please.
I asked what your expectations are for this course. What do you hope to get at the end of the course?
Okay.
Mr. Prince Owusu, are you there? All right. Sir Prince is also not available. So maybe we'll just jump right into it. Okay, introduction to English language. Now, English language, like it says, is a language, okay? And several rules govern the speaking of the language. But before that, before we get into the rules and all that, I want us to briefly look at the concept of language. I want us to look at the concept of language. Let me know if you cannot see my screen, okay? Because I'm sharing it.
Sure. All right.
The term language is derived from a Latin word and also a French word. The Latin word that language is derived from is called lingua, which means tongue. And it's also from French, like I mentioned, the French word langue, which also means tongue. So language in reference points to the human parts called tongue. Okay. And we know how crucial the tongue is in speaking a particular language. And several scholars have defined language, in ways that suit their perspective and understanding. And therefore, the definition often may appear either complex or multifaceted. And as we continue, you will see the complexity and the multi-phase of it. Most of the definitions, of course, like I mentioned, share some similarities, but we also get to see the differences that exist in these definitions. First, we'll look at the structuralist definition of language. I mentioned that several scholars have defined language. We'll look at a group of people or scholars that are called the structuralists. And then we'll look at their definition of language. We'll look at the key issues they highlight, and then we'll move on to other scholars and how they define language. According to the structuralists, and the person amongst them who led such definition was Edward Sapir in 1921. He defined language as purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desires by means of a system of voluntarily produced symbols. Now, looking at this definition, I want you to take a second or two and look at the definition. Take note of the words that have been used, because we're going to look at them one by one. Language is defined as purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desires by means of a system of voluntarily produced symbols. Now, according to the scholar Sapir, 1921, language is purely human. So he clearly doesn't believe language is beyond human. Maybe animals don't communicate. And it's also non-instinctive. Non-instinctive to suggest that it is not inherent in our biological system. So nobody is born with language. Where you are born, you pick the language from that society. That's what Sapir is communicating. So nobody has it when they are born unless they are put in a society. So for instance, if a Ghanaian is born in Ghana and then probably taken to, let's say, to the US or to the UK, the language they may pick may be that of the British English or the American English, and not necessarily the local language they could have studied if they were born and stayed in Ghana. Okay, so that what it means to say is non-instinctive method of communicating ideas. So language is used to communicate ideas, and not just ideas. I mean, more than ideas, do we? Hello?
Yeah, hello, madam.
Hello, madam.
Hello.
Yes, I need your response.
Madam,
To
We can't hear
Yeah,
you, madam.
your
yeah, please,
network.
your network. It looks like the sound.
Is it better now?
Yes, madam.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Okay.
Yes, yes, it's better now.
All right. That language is purely human and non-instinctive. And I've explained that his use of non-instinctive, okay? Or where you grow the language from. And I gave the instance of if a child, a Ghanaian, for instance, is born in the UK or US, as they grow, they pick the language from that society. So clearly, if the child had that local language, instinctively, they will grow up speaking the local language. But since that's not what it is, they speak the language they find in the society. And then I mentioned again that language is also a method of communicating ideas. So if we have ideas to share, we definitely will use language. If I ask a question and you have to respond to that question with your ideas, you will use language, okay? So language is also used to express emotions and also desires. So it's not just about expressing your ideas. Sometimes we use language often. I mean, we use language to also express our emotions and our desires. And that's what Sapir is saying by defining language. Then he also believes that these communication of ideas, emotions, and desires are done by means of a system of voluntarily produced symbols. So what it means is that as a society, they have a system where together they have decided in our society, if you frown your face, I'm just using that as an example. If you frown your face, it means disagreement. Another society may decide that, well, if you frown your face, it means you consent. Okay. So depending on the agreements and system of that society, language is used in that means. So that's what Sapir is saying. So it's purely human, it's non-instinctive, it is used to communicate ideas, emotions, and desire by means of a system of voluntary produced symbols. And that's what I've just explained. And this definition is by the structuralists. Okay. So quickly we will look at what's the generative scholars also define language. And one key proponent of the generative grammars is Noam Chomsky. Remember we said for structuralists is Sapir. For generative is Noam Chomsky, okay? And Noam Chomsky, I mean, is a renowned linguistic man who has contributed largely to language development and the literature about language, okay? And he defined language as a set of finite or infinite of sentences, each finite in length and constructed out of a finite set of elements. According to Chomsky, language is an innate biological grammar that allows humans to produce an infinite variety of sentences. Now, take a second and process all that he's saying. So Chomsky is saying that language is a set of finite or infinite sentences. And these sentences are finite in length. And these sentences are constructed out of finite sets of elements. Now, I'm going to break that down. So what he means is that Language is all the sentences a particular language has. And then these sentences, according to him, could be finite or infinite. Either there's an end to it or there's no end to it. And in communicating, you will use these examples from this supposed list of finite sentences or not, or infinite sentences, to communicate your ideas. And according to him, the language that you will use is innate, biological, and by innate, he believes that it is built in our minds. The human or the young child who's learning a language has what he calls the language acquisition device in his head, where cognitively, by processes of the mind, the child is able to put together sentences and generate new sentences. And let me bring it to our ordinary language. For instance, you know, when a child is growing, they start by calling out words and names. And by the time we realize they are saying sentences that they hear us say, and by the time we are awake, fully awake, they are saying sentences that we may not have even said. And that's what Chomsky is talking about. So in as much as this child may be young and is in the environment, his mind is not just empty, but is in that active process of juggling all the words and sentences together to create new and variety of sentences. Remember, the structuralist said, okay, language is non-instinctive. This person is saying that it goes beyond that. The one learning a language has that innate biological grammar that allows them to produce an infinite variety of sentences. So that's another perspective. So the perspective of the generative grammarians or Noam Chomsky is that language is innate, and yes, it belongs to a set of finite or infinite sentences that we generate more from. So that's the generative point of view and their definition for language. Now we'll look at the functionalist definition, and I'll pause for us to clarify what has been said, and I'll also ask a few questions. Now, according to the functionalists, and the one who led this definition is M.A.K. Halliday, 1973. He saw language from the sociological perspective, okay? He viewed language as a social semiotic. The word semiotic has to do with signs and symbols, okay? So he saw language as a social semiotic. So as a society, we agree that these symbols or signs should communicate this or that, and that becomes our language. A system of meanings that allows people to function within a culture. So as a group, in order for you to function in our culture, this is our semiotics. These are our signs and symbols that we use to communicate, okay? Halliday says language is not just a set of rules, but it's also a resource for making meaning in social context. So sometimes we think that language is just rules, you know, subject, verb, agreement, and all that. But we've experienced several instances where we communicate with people using the resources we have in the language to say things and they are meaningful, or to even gesture and they are meaningful. Okay, so that's what Halliday is referring to. Like, as a society, we have our sets of semiotics, resource, signs, and symbols that we use to make meaning in that social context. So these are the three definitions that I want us to consider. Any questions so far? Sir Joseph, you want to speak?
Madam, please, yes.
All
I have
right.
an empty, what do we call it, slide. So I want to ask if it's a general issue or it's only my LMS that is having such issue.
Okay, let's ask the class. Class, do you have something on your slides?
No, please. Me to
No,
say.
madam.
No,
I don't
please.
have any slides in my head.
On the page.
But can you see my screen?
Yes, please.
Yes. No. No.
Yes.
And it's empty.
No.
Now we are referring to the LMS.
Come again.
I'm referring to the LMS page.
He hasn't uploaded anything there yet. Yes.
Okay, but on this platform that we are talking, you can't see my screen.
We
We
can.
can see.
No, we can see.
We
We
can
can
see.
You can see what's on the slide.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
madam.
Okay, so maybe the gentleman who has the question. Mr. Joseph,
Madam,
are you on this platform we are, talking, or you're on LMS?
I'm on this platform, madam.
And you still can't see?
I can see, but I'm talking about the LMS. I'm just asking a question.
I'm not, I'm not there at the moment. I'm just using the team link for this teaching. I will post it there when it's available.
All right, madam. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Far. Should I call out names? Say there.
Madam, please, the question again.
Okay, what have you heard so far?
Thank you. Hello, madam. Hello, madam.
Yes, please.
Please,
I'm
can you hear?
listening. Yes, I can.
Okay. I heard that SAPER defined language as human and non-instinctive
I
method
hear you.
of communicating ideas.
We are waiting.
Hello, madam.
Yes, please. I can hear you.
Okay. I said I heard that SAPER defined language as human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas.
Okay. All right. I explained the non-instinctive. I explained it. Can you tell me your understanding of that? So Moses say, okay, Madam Yvonne, Nana, your hand is up. You can speak.
Okay, so with the non-instinctive, from what you said, I remember you saying, unlike animal communications, with human beings, we can learn languages. So you made an example that when a child is born, the child learns the language from his or her environment. So if the child is born in maybe Europe, the child learns the language there. And if the child is born in Ghana, then the child is going to learn the language over here.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay, so let's continue. So according to these definitions, there are 5 elements we can mention. We can pick from these definitions and from other definitions too. The 3 main definitions that I presented are to give you a view of how the various scholars perceive the definition of language or define language, okay? So 5 elements are key in defining language. And today, as part of the lesson, I want us to look at them. The very first one is system. Language incorporates systems. There's also what we call the arbitrariness. And as we continue, you understand that. I'll explain it. There's also what we call the vocal nature. I mean, as humans, there's a vocal nature to communication and to language. And there's also symbolism. Remember, we mentioned semiotics. And then communication, which is, of course, the most key thing of language, okay? So we'll be looking at these one by one, and I'll be asking questions as we go. So please pay attention. Okay. Language is a structured system, not just a collection of words. And by now, I'm sure your mind has been drawn to the systems of whatever language you speak. And for us who have gathered here, maybe we can refer to English language. You know, you can't just put any words together and speak. You have some supposed rules you will follow. And when we miss those rules, we tell people, hey, this person cannot speak good English. This person cannot write good English. What are we using to measure the language as good or bad or poor or not communicating well? It's because we know some of the systems and we have learned them. And these systems for English language have levels. Levels beginning with the least. Should I call it least? It's not least in significance, but is the, let me say, smallest of it to the largest of it. Least will not convey the meaning intended. So the smallest of the language units and its system is what we call the phonemes or phonology. And in further studies, there's even a morpheme. Morpheme, and then it follows to the largest, which is a paragraph or a full text. But for here, we will look at phonology, and phonology has to do with the sounds and phonemes, okay? And then morphology, how the words are structured, how the morphemes are put together. And then syntax has to do with the grammar and the rules. Semantics has to do with meaning. And then pragmatics has to do with the context or the social situations where communication happens. So the very first one, like I mentioned, language is a system. It forms something like a hierarchy, okay, from small least to the largest or the biggest, each one being built upon. So for instance, through phonology, we are able to enter the system morphology. By putting sounds together, we are able to put words together. That's what it means. We cannot miss this level of phonology and start morphology. Definitely, we will have to put sounds together to form individual words before we can put these words together with rules to form structure. So, for instance, phonology, the smallest functional unit of sound, phonemes, for example, changing p in parts to a b creates another word, which is but, signaling a change in the system. So a change in the system at the phonology level or the phonological level can also cause a change in meaning, which is semantics. So you see how interrelated these systems are. Of course, that's why it's called system. So they are interrelated. You put the sounds together. If the sounds change, there's a possibility of meaning change or even the words changing. So phonology is the smallest functional unit. Morphology follows that hierarchy upwards, and how sounds combine into meaningful units, morphemes, like adding ed to a verb to signal the past, adding, let's say, s to a noun to form a plural or a singular verb. These rules are what form the morphology. Now, also on syntax has to do with the rules of grammar. So what will make us put a verb? What does the rule say when you have a verb, a noun in its subjective case, a noun in its objective case? What are the rules governing that? That is what we call syntax. So the rules that make us put words, ideas together is what we call the syntax. Meaning is what I already mentioned, is the semantics. What meanings are associated with these symbols and concepts and words that we use? And the pragmatics has to do with context. Okay, in a formal context, what language can I use? In an informal context, well, in a jovial context, how can I use language to reach or achieve that goal? In let's say a hateful comment, what words can I put together to communicate that hateful comments? Okay, all that go under pragmatics. So these are the systems of language. Now, there are some key characteristics of the systems, and according to the structuralists, remember we mentioned the definition of the structuralists. Language has arbitrary nature of the sign. I've mentioned that we will explain. Remember, arbitrariness is also a key element of language. So we'll look at that. But a quick explanation is that there isn't a direct connection between a word and its meaning. So for instance, what about the word tree? I mean, picture the word tree, like picture a tree. What about it gives it the name tree? If not society ascribing that name and meaning to it, what about a tree standing in your house? What about it suggests that it should be called a tree? I don't know if my scenario makes sense. Does it?
Yes, it does.
Does it make sense?
Yes, it does.
Please.
Okay, so what's about a phone? What about it? Is it the earpiece or not? That we call it phone. Society could have decided that a refrigerator is a phone, We wouldn't have known any better because that's what society wants it to be called, and we call it so, as we have agreed. Okay, so there's nothing about a phone that determines its name. It's just society deciding that, oh, we will call this item, this symbol, a phone, and we've agreed and we all know. And so it's almost like when manufacturing the phone came out with its name. No, that's not what it is. Okay, so that's what the structuralist is saying. So words do not share any connection with their meaning except that which society has ascribed to it. So for instance, there's no natural connection between the word tree and its actual call on these associations. So that is why so a tree will be called a dua, and a dua. I'm sure in Ever it's called a different name, or in that society that has determined it, and such meaning has been ascribed to the word. The names we have for one thing. So the history called in Ghana. What is the name of tree in Ghana? Any Ghana?
Madam, Cho.
Mau Nyaga. Oh, but you also have Asari. Okay. All right. Kindly tell the class your local name for tree. I mean, anybody can respond to it since you're all quiet. So David, you are trying to talk, huh? I can't hear you.
Madam, I'm an Eve.
Okay, so what's the name for tree in your language?
Ati.
Ati. Okay, I don't speak Ewe. So when you tell me Ati, I can hardly associate that sound with tree. Do you get it? But I'm sure anyone who speaks Ewe will hear Ati and knows that you're referring to tree, because as a society, that is the connection you have drawn. And usually it happens over the years. It's not some one-time thing. But of course, some can be created. I mean, we've had two friends trying to, generate their own language just so they can communicate in public, for instance. And often either they are gossiping or, they are trying to hide something from, and they refer to things that both of them understand. Okay. So that is the arbitrariness we are talking about concerning the elements of language. Also, another key characteristic of the system, language incorporating system, is what we call the paradigmatic versus syntagmatic relations. Forget these big words. But what they mean is that for paradigmatic, it has to do with the vertical relationship that exists among words. Okay. So for instance, the let's look at the example there. The cat sat. What words can replace these words in that sentence? we know that cat is a noun. Okay. Dog can replace that too, depending on what we want to say. Bird can replace that. Even human being, so you can name a human being and it can replace that and it will be fine. But those set of words cannot replace the verb sat. They can't, unless we find other verbs that carry the semantics around sat. So for instance, the verb sat there, we know is an action verb. It's also in the past. So if we want to choose a word similar to that, we will choose a word that's an action word and also in the past. Then we know that that word supposedly can replace the word sat. So it is that relationship that exists vertically between words or among words. And the syntagmatic has to do with the horizontal relationship that exists, how words chain together. So we know that we can't say there is an, and it will be meaningful. No. Because in that sentence I just gave, there is no content word to communicate anything. They are all determinants. Okay. But we know that if we put a determiner in front of a noun and then we add a verb by the rules, then some relationship is established and meaning is conveyed. Now, the key thing about language is communication. So whatever you put together should be communicating something in your context or society. Okay. And this is what this is what we are saying is a key characteristic of system. So the systems follow these paradigmatic rules or syntagmatic relationships. And there's also the arbitrariness of these words and signs. Okay. Now, please, in a sentence, everyone should write what they understand by system, language incorporating system, in just a sentence. Please write it at the chats. Some of you are shy. When I call you, you don't talk. So you write it and then I'll have a look at it to see if you understand what is happening. Kindly put your answer in the chats window. Hey, no answer yet. My class members, are you here?
Yes, madam.
I'm waiting.
Yes.
Language incorporates systems, and I've explained what it means to say that. Okay, Michael Into says, language as system means it's not just a collection of words, but it's structured. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Mr. Solomon Irenchi, I can see you. Please type your answer.
Okay, madam, I'm on it.
Oh, you want to speak? Okay. Prince Owusu, language as a system means that language is organized with rules and structure that work together to communicate meaning. Great. Eric Ivan Wk1, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, okay? They are words that are put together to have a common meaning. They are words. Language incorporates system. They are words that are put together to have a common meaning. Sir Ivan, I take a look at it. I think something is missing. Language creates meaningful communication, okay, by considering those systems and rules. I believe that's what Yvonne wants to say. I mean, if you are comfortable talking, please unmute and speak or raise your hand, then I'll call you. If you want to write to, I'm right here reading them. Magdalene, and language system combines vocabulary and grammar to generate meaningful experience. Okay. All right. Thanks for responding. Okay, Holy Amenuveve means systems means language follows rules and structure that makes communication understandable. Okay. All right. I'm glad you are listening. Okay, so we will move straight to the next item, which is the arbitrariness of language, or language incorporates arbitrariness. I think I have explained it briefly, but we'll go into it the more this point. Bernard Bloch and George L. Traeger, 1942, provide a concise and technical definition often cited in introductory linguistics. They characterize language as a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by means of which a social group cooperates. This highlights two key features: arbitrariness. There is no natural connection between a word and its meaning, and social utility. Okay, so exactly what I was explaining to you. They believe that there is no natural connection between a word, its meaning, and its social utility. All that is determined by the society. The concept of arbitrariness states there is no inherent connection between a word, sound, and its meaning. So, for instance, what about the letter B? What about that letter gives it its sound? It's because we've come to know it to be so. Other than that, the sound could have been B if society decided so. So there's, again, not just a word and its meaning, but even a sound, a letter and its sound, okay? Take all the alphabets into consideration. Who gave them the sounds? In fact, they didn't even exist until they were brought into existence in creating the physicalness of the language we speak. These letters were speak into physical existence. So it's just like now, I don't know if any of you speak Chinese.
I can speak a little bit.
Chinese. Okay. So now when you see Chinese letters, I'm sure you're able to connect meaning And then you can link that to even some English. So you're able to probably translate before that. I'm sure if you saw Chinese letters, it didn't make any sense at all to us. I mean, it's education. They are able to draw some link, but even that link is still arbitrary because that knowledge they possess is gained through society or education. So that's what is referred to as the arbitrariness of language. And for all languages, exception could be made for onomatopoeic words. Do you know onomatopoeic words? Please respond if you do.
Yes.
Yes. Can you give me an example, please?
Quack.
Quack, the quack of a duck. So by yeah, that too. That too. So for onomatopoeic words, at least when we hear it, we are able to quickly refer to what it is. So we hear the quack and we just know, okay, that's the cry of a duck, or the meow and we know it's the cry of a cat, or even the wolf of a dog and we know it's, oh, that's the dog crying, screaming, whatever. But all other words are not suggestive of their meanings. They exist and their meanings are known or given to them based on an agreed system. The system we already mentioned. So an agreed rules by society, which often we learn through education or through acculturation. Let's say you are brought up in a family, you start speaking and you are speaking and it makes sense. And you make sense of what others are saying. But it is not inherent in the individual words and structures that meaning is derived. It is what society ascribes to them. So that is the arbitrariness of language and for all languages. Okay. Now, as part of the whole argument around arbitrariness is Ferdinand de Saussure. He introduced what we call the signifier and the signified. The signifier being the word sound, and the signified is the concepts that is called up in our head or in our understanding. Okay, so for the tree example we used, the word tree by sound and by spelling is the signifier. The signified is when we mention tree, the idea that is formed in your head as your understanding of the sound is what we call the signified. Okay, and that is Ferdinand de Saussure's explanation of arbitrariness and how society makes language possible. So in talking about arbitrariness, you never finish your discussion without mentioning Ferdinand de Saussure. Because when you have spoken about how there isn't an inherent connection between a word or a sound and its meaning or its concept, and you eventually you will come and mention these concepts, the signifier, which is the letter, the sound, and the concept it calls up in your head. And the relationship that exists between these are societal agreed upon or determined by society. The relationship between the sound and the concept of a long or short looking wood with green lives on it is society determined. Okay, and that's what Fernandez refers to as the signifier and the signified. Now, the arbitrariness of language makes some things possible about language. And one of them is semantic shift. I mean, if you read the history of English language, you realize that some meanings of words have shifted or have changed over time. And that is possible because of the arbitrariness that exists. Okay. If let me use this example. The quack of a duck can never shift to be that of a cow. Is that understood?
Yes, please.
Because arbitrariness doesn't to some extent exist between the sounds, there's onomatopoeic words and their reference or their concepts they call up in our heads when we mention them. So that I don't know, maybe by evolution, the quack of a duck may become the roar of a tiger someday. But for all the other words, it is possible that meanings may change with time, or other meanings may be called up, or other concepts may be called up later to come when we mention the words. It is possible. That is why some words can generate two concepts, and sometimes, depending on its context, we are able to determine their meanings. Now, I'm sure in all the languages you all speak, you can say one word, and until you use a context, it's hard to probably get the specific meaning. Okay. I'm trying to think of an example, or maybe I should leave it to you. Any example about a word that calls up two or more meanings, and contexts help us define the meanings or differentiate the meanings? I would love if it's not in English so that we can relate to the cultural specifics of the arbitrariness and semantic shift.
We only know the
Any
English
hand
ones.
up? Say again.
Please, I
Please
said
say
we only
again.
know the English. I said the English ones are the only ones we know.
Hey, you're speaking for the whole class.
Madam,
No.
madam.
Yes.
So basically, we can say dia, di, the, u, a. In one context, it could mean that plant something. And then
Okay.
in another context, it could mean a tree.
Okay.
But they
So
all
one is
have
a verb, one is a noun.
exactly. But they all have one spelling.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They all have one. They have same letters.
Same letters.
Put together by a system to communicate different meanings.
Exactly,
Okay.
madam.
I like that. But that is just a picture into semantic shifts, okay? I don't want us to go into the history of English and all that. So words over the years have lost their meanings. Oh, let's quickly look at these Shakespearean English. I mean, now there are words that were used that now when you write them down, people can't even guess the meaning. And they wonder, now what is this one too? Is that not why people keep saying, oh, it's hard to read Shakespearean text? That's the reason, because a lot of such words have lost their meanings, or the society that use them do not exist anymore, and the new ones that have come have created their own, and it's working. So that's another scenario of the semantic shift. Okay. All right. Has anyone thought of another example? Oh, no other example from you.
And now another example could be.
I think somebody wrote mouse. Okay. So the word mouse, okay, calls up several ideas. That's true. Mr. Nate, you were speaking.
Madam, yes. I was saying that another word could be che.
Che, okay.
So it could mean that you are sharing. And then it could
Mhm.
also mean that a hat. So
Okay. All right. That's true. So clearly you understand what it means. So maybe, just maybe, as we grow old and we face out and our great-grandchildren start coming and they say, you know what, let's give this one a new meaning. And I mean, the meaning of that thing has changed. Do you get it? So that's what it is. And it is possible because of the arbitrariness of language. If it were such that the words or the letters that come together to call up a concept is fixed and they have inherent meanings, like the example of the quack, then words could not change because those items relatively it means will die and go, but the ideas will exist. Abstract concepts like justice, tomorrow, rely on arbitrary convention. If we want to, there are some words even till date. In objects, you know, like the example they just written here, justice. If we want to, we say the word justice, what would that object be? Are you filled up? Aside from the fact that it's a moment in time, no object is called up in our heads. Okay, so this language post. Hello.
Madam. Yes, madam.
Okay. Did you hear me?
Yes, please.
Oh, your voice
Eh,
is not stable.
We are not hearing you.
It's not stable. Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
madam, it's not
please.
stable.
I mentioned that. Is it better now?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
we can hear you.
Okay. So I was explaining that arbitrariness of language makes the idea in concepts or concepts like justice and tomorrow exist. Because when we think about these words, we cannot have any object called up. And then I mentioned, for instance, if we say tomorrow, what object comes up in your head as a reference to tomorrow? Apart from knowing that is a point in time, okay? It's the same with the word justice. When I ask you, okay, so what is justice? You will get other words to explain it, but you cannot point to anything and call it justice. With the exception of someone who is called justice anyway. So that's one of the significance, so to speak, of arbitrariness. Okay, it makes this possible in language so that abstract ideas can be communicated. I think I already made the exception known to you that onomatopoeic words are quite different. And then I established that there's no way, maybe some time to come, maybe by evolution, but we all know it's almost impossible that the quack of a duck will become the roar of a lion. And they will say the lion quack or the duck roars. Because from now till before we came now until maybe forever, the duck will forever quack and the lion will forever roar. And when we think about them, these objects come to mind immediately. So there's an inherent meaning in these words that refer to the objects. And these are the exceptions of the exceptions to the arbitrariness of language. Okay. And again, arbitrariness enable language flexibility, creativity, and evolution. I mean, language can change because they don't, words and their meaning don't, connect inherently. Also, the semantic shift we mentioned, we can be flexible using words. I mean, we've created sentences to communicate with friends, especially in very informal way, jovial way, because we can use language, we can twist and turn it here and there to achieve effects. How many times haven't we heard jokes? And then when you pay attention to the jokes, it's the use of the language that is making it funny, and not necessarily the content or the concepts that are called up, but how language has been used. That's comic relief or comic significance is achieved. Okay, and all these are possible because of the arbitrariness of language. Any question, please? If there aren't any question, we'll move straight to the vocal nature of language. Remember, we said language has 5 key elements. We've mentioned systems, we've mentioned arbitrariness. Now we are looking at the vocal nature of language. So language incorporates vocal nature. Language is a vocal phenomenon rooted in biology and evolution. I mean, immediately a child is born, after a while, biology will tell you the child should start making sounds. And if your child don't make those sounds, they will call it a milestone deficiency or whatever. The baby is not reaching the milestones they're supposed to reach. So making sound is biological, is rooted in our very nature. And the language we use to communicate is also rooted in this sounds that we make. And the vocal nature of language is that when we think of something to speak or to communicate, it happens in our brain and our nerves and cells and all the neurological impulses we can think of. When we have thought of it, then there's an articulatory movement. And by that, the tongue will either shift to the upper palate, the soft palate, the front teeth, all those gimmicks and drama that happens in our mouth when we want to say something or when we want to speak. That's what we call the articulatory movement. So the mind thinks of it, processes it, Then the articulatory movements begin and sounds are made. So that's the speech chain, okay? Then sounds are made. And these sounds often are reflective of society and what is shared, okay? So the key aspects of speech production are airflow, the pulmonic egression, your lungs pushing air and all that. The phonocentrism, spoken word in primary, writing is secondary. Now, very core to the human nature is speaking and not writing. I mean, what is biologically determined by just living is speaking and not writing. Writing is learned, okay? Writing is learned in school. That's why writing is a bit difficult than the other language skills. Listening, speaking, writing, and reading. Listening is also a biological thing. Speaking is a biological thing. It is reading and writing that are added on through acculturation or education. Okay. So for phonocentrism, the phonemes that are spoken when we talk. So in speech production, we depend on phonology, the phonemes, which are also part of the system we explained as a first key element. Now, another thing that is key to speech production is what we call the paralanguage. The paralanguage has to do with rhythm, stress, intonation, and all that to communicate meaning. You see, language perhaps doesn't exist in a vacuum. So a person can say 2 sentences just by changing the tone or the stress on the words, and sometimes even the rhythm. Meaning is changed. That's why we hear people say, he said that, but it's the way he said it. How did the person say it? And how was that achieved? Is the intonation that was added or the stress that was put on some words? I mean, even from this response, is the way he said it. You see the stress on way is telling whoever I'm talking to that, yes, I have a problem with the way. Just by putting stress on the word way, something is heightened or highlighted for the listener to know exactly what I want to communicate. So these things are all key aspects of speech production, which is also part of vocal nature of language, okay? And also pitch modulation. So when people are in love and they are talking on phone, you see how they talk. You see masculine men whispering. Masculine men and women who would roar as the least of, provocation will be whispering and all that. It's the same thing for sarcasm. I mean, people, by virtue of modulating pitch, can use same sentences to express sarcastic meanings. And I know you all have a lot of examples, so I'm going to pause and I will listen to all your examples for the paralanguage on rhythm, stress, intonation, and pitch modulation. You say a sentence, and then maybe you change the stress, intonation, or rhythm, or even the pitch, and then we all will guess what meaning you want to communicate other than the words that have been structured and put together, okay? So let's take 5 minutes to do that and see how practical that is. Sir Johnson Doe. Mr. Gilbert Mensah. Mr. Roland. Please prepare with the examples. Madam America, you too. Please prepare with the example. Mr. Barnes, Albert, Rodney, Kwesi. Madam Holy. Hey, I think that's not the student. Okay. Miss Atta. I'm waiting. For this one, we can't write because we need to hear the intonation, the stress, or the pitch modulation.
Madam, please, I want to try. Hello, madam.
All right. Yes.
Okay, so
Okay, Solomon, your G's hand is also up. So when you
I want to try.
finish, then I can't hear you. Okay, Sir
Madam,
Solomon, you can speak.
okay. So for the intonation and the stress, can I say London is the capital town of Britain? Madam, please, am I correct?
No, you keep breaking up.
Okay, London is the capital town of Britain.
Or is it from here? Who is talking? Is this Solomon?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm listening.
London is the capital town of Britain.
Uh-huh. Okay, so that's one sentence. Okay, say that same sentence differently and let's see the two meanings we can make a. Oh, Sir Solomon, your network is not stable, eh?
Okay, so madam, should I give the same example of that London is the capital town of Britain?
So the whole idea is that sometimes same sentence, but the way it's said
Okay,
by
okay.
So
Is London the capital town of Britain?
okay. So that's one.
London can be the capital town of Britain.
Okay, so where is the stress and where is the intonation and where is the pitch modulation?
So I'm stressing on the London.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe somebody said Accra is the capital town of Britain and you wanted to correct the person, so you stress London. So the
Okay.
person knows that. Okay.
Okay.
And then the second one is what?
It's London, the capital town of Britain.
But these are two different structures. So one is a question, one is a statement. The second sentence is a question. And the first one is a statement. But I see where you're coming from. Like you've gotten the concept.
Okay.
You're trying to, yeah, I see that. Okay, so that is the vocal nature. Okay, Gilbert has written, you are coming tomorrow with an exclamation. Gilbert, do you care to explain what possible what two meanings can be derived from that?
Madam, you are coming tomorrow. I think the intonation is you are. I think the stress is you. And the intonation is the coming tomorrow.
Okay.
Because,
Richmond. Okay, Gilbert is still speaking.
Because the coming emphasizes the action.
Okay. Yeah, I saw a hand up. I've lost it.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Yes, Richmond. I want to try and see if I get what you are teaching us this evening. Yeah. Okay, let's look at this word. This statement. Who are you?
Who are you? Yeah. Yeah.
You see.
So.
Oh yes, coming. So you see these two, the same words, but it may have different understand based on the tonation.
Yeah. So one could be a genuine invitation to tell us about yourself.
Yes.
And one could be a rude, Ghana.
Yes.
What authority is backing you?
Yes. Yeah. Who are you?
All right. That's a good example.
Okay,
Magdalene has written, you are coming as a question, and you are coming as a statement. So just by the modulation of our voice, these set of words, same words, are structured differently when we speak. Now, remember I said language has a vocal nature, and that written language is artificial to our biological selves, okay? But we make up for these intonation and pitch modulation when we write. And then a very good example is what Magdalene has indicated. By using a question mark and a full stop, which she didn't bring anyway, we are able to read these two sentences out differently. Okay, so in writing, we make up for these naturalness of speaking language by using some of these punctuation marks. Now, the goal of all these, all these introduction to language, and we are talking about language and its inherent arbitrariness, is that for you to get the whole understanding and concept that language, English language, and for this particular context, English language doesn't work just like that. It works with rules, it works with systems, it works with vocal nature, it works with arbitrariness. And therefore, as we begin to dive into it, you will have all these at the back of your mind. And it is from these that English diverge into several subtopics. Okay, because now we want to know the systems. We want to know the rules of the language. Roland has written sit down with an exclamation mark and sit down. Well, one could mean, well, shut up and sit down. Stop disturbing us. And the other one could be a welcoming gesture of, oh, have a seat. All right. Can we say stop that? Stop that. Of course. And like I said, when we write it, we make use of punctuation marks to help us. But I wanted you to talk so that you see how you will use your voice or your vocal ability to stress and to modulate pitch so that these meanings are, changed. But that's all good. Clearly, you understand what is being said. Okay, the last item on this particular slide says phonetic symbolism. Sounds may have inherent feelings. Imagine you hear someone say, what comes to mind?
Right.
The person is tired and the person has getting rest or something.
Yeah, that's so true. Mm-hmm.
Sigh of relief, madam.
Sigh of relief, very good. Mm-hmm. What about?
I think something is
Disturbed. Something may be wrong.
Disturbed. Or the person is pensive. Oh, so clearly. And how do we know this? How do we know this? It's because as a society, we've come to this conclusion and we use it to our own understanding. I've heard a few foreigners mention that when you come to Ghana, there are some sounds that make complete meaning. And they were referring to and there were about 3 or 4 of them. And each instance is like, immediately they mentioned, I understood it. But the interviewer couldn't get it and asked for explanation. That's okay. So in this context, what would the mean? And then the visitor, the one who visited Ghana, will explain, okay, it means that in Ghana. And clearly, it's something in I think Ghana, Nigeria. Well, I don't know if some of the African countries are, but right. So these sounds in themselves have inherent meanings, okay, and it is possible that communication of language, okay. Make use of symbols, or language incorporates symbols. Now, in explaining symbols is the core idea of arbitrariness, okay, that I've already explained. Because the symbols that are called up, or the objects and ideas that are called up, are represented by symbols of sounds when we write, especially. So symbolic communication using arbitrary signs, sounds, or gestures to represent objects, ideas, or relationship. And we see how by gesturing, people have communicated in ways we found rude, we found as a plea. If somebody sees you and the back of one of the person's palm into the palm of the other hand, what meaning comes to mind? Did you get the gesture I'm trying to explain to you?
No, please.
No, please.
the back of your palm into your other palm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. You are begging or you are pleading.
Here. Okay. So that's the symbol. It's a sign. But into us.
Please, we can't hear you all. Your line was breaking.
I think I lost you briefly. What what are some of the gestures that we use to communicate, in our society? What are some of the gestures?
What are beautiful?
Richmond, yes, please.
Yeah, madam. Some example is
Okay, that's the sound with inherent meaning. This time around, I'm talking about gestures.
Okay.
Gestures that communicate.
Okay, what about nodding the head?
Nodding, very good.
When you nod the head,
So
like
nod,
to agree to something.
Is it up and down or side?
Up and down.
Up and down. Okay,
Yes,
and that means.
Yeah, let's say you agree to what the person is saying.
Agree to what the person.
Yes, you see, sometimes let's say somebody's asking or asks you something, and you just nod the head to just say, let's say yes, without speaking or without saying anything. Okay.
Yeah, that's very good. Okay, some other hand is up.
What about clapping?
Clapping.
Yeah, clapping.
Okay. Well, what do we think? I think that is also a societal phenomenon to suggest what. Even now we can be sarcastic about it, right? People have clapped for people when they, So so you see, sometimes it even goes beyond what we know. So context becomes very important. So let's say you are angry with somebody, trying to even get them to be offended or to see that you're offended, and then the person starts clapping. Will that be a sign of applause?
No, please.
Yeah. Clearly, it's not going to be a sign of applause at all. And there are many of such things. Sometimes when people are speaking, imagine you're speaking to somebody and the person is rolling their eyes. And one thing will come to mind, right? What would that be? What would that be?
Maybe the person is suggesting you are lying. Or
I'm not interested. Or to clearly show a sign of, I have no respect for what you are saying or yourself.
yes.
I have no respect for you.
Yeah, that's
okay. So
that
these,
one.
yes. So these are all symbols. Okay. Key features of symbol: displacement, referring to things not present, past, future, present concepts. Now, we can refer to things with symbols, sometimes that are not even necessarily present. We are able to talk about the past or the future because we have words, sounds, things to represent them that don't necessarily mean those items or objects or concepts are right here with us, okay? And this is possible because language incorporates symbols that can be used to communicate meanings. Again, the arbitrariness that exists between symbols and their meaning. You remember the signifier and the signified. The arbitrariness that exists there is what makes symbols relevant in language. Because if for instance, clapping meant an applause, then under no circumstance could anyone use clapping other than for an applause. Do you get it? But because there exists to some extent an arbitrariness between putting your palms together and making that sound and the meaning it calls up, we are able to use that gesture to communicate other things too. And an example is the second scenario I gave. You're angry talking to somebody and the person is clapping. So that's another feature of the use of symbols. Now, these are evidence for symbolic language. These are examples, archaeological, yoga engravings in tombs, and if you study history, you see that people who migrated from, or the typical natives of a particular culture may leave engravings in mountains, and for people can read and they understand. That shows how symbolic language is. And sometimes in Morocco, in personal ornament, people may draw something, the symbol of love communicates love almost universally, okay? And that's a symbol, one of the evidence of the symbolic nature of language. So these are all instances. Naming insights in children around 18 months. When they're 18 months, they start naming the insights that they get. They start naming things by the symbols they see, symbolic systems. Language, look at mathematics and chemistry. The signs that are used to represent formulas and particularly formulas for math and chemistry. These are all symbols but are language. Okay. Humans have theirs, animals have their own kind of symbols. Do you think animals communicate? Do you think animals communicate? It's a question to the class.
Yeah, they do.
Yes, madam.
Yes, they do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. What is making us think so?
Madam, please. Hello.
Yes, I'm listening, please.
Some cats, if you are holding a fish, when they get closer to you, they can do their face some way, so you can know that they want some of the fish.
Oh, okay.
Madam, also birds singing in the morning. It's usually a call and a response. You hear a bird use a tone, and then another response with a similar one or a different one. Then they go back and forth.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I'm sure you've heard a missing lamp calling out to, I don't know, its mother or family members, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's true.
yes.
You see, they will cry, and the mother will respond from somewhere. So clearly, they have their own kind of language.
And also, normally when they are on heat, they communicate a lot.
The
Yes,
cock and
especially
the hen.
the cock and then
Sometimes I wonder why the hen is running away. Do you even know what's up? But
Because
so clearly they understand the language.
Yes. As for the dogs, the dogs don't go there.
So yeah, they have some sort of a language that they operate. Maybe it may not be as sophisticated as ours. Okay, but they do have a language they communicate by. Okay, another key elements of language is communication. And I mean, we've been mentioning communication since we began today's lesson. Communication is at the core of language. Other than that, what is language for? Okay, so language is the most sophisticated system that we have for communication, but it incorporates more than just exchange of data or information. It's the framework that structures how we perceive and share reality. The language we use tell us or tell other people what our reality is or how we perceive life. Now, there's a relationship between communication and language. Communication is the art, okay, the goal. While language is the tool that is used to achieve this art or goal. So language is used as the method or the tool to achieve the goal, which is communication. If you start opening your mouth and you start speaking some sounds, I mean, if you are saying, you start speaking some sound, clearly you may want to communicate. And whoever is by you is hoping to get some information. So that's the whole point. Language is the tool used to achieve the goal. And it can be verbal, non-verbal, visual, chemical like phonemes. I mean, we've learned about the physical, the symbolic nature of language and all. Like the red lights. We all know when you see the red light, it means stop. You know, whenever I see the red lights, when you see the traffic light, I don't know if you know it. There is something you should know.
Yes,
Even
madam.
as children, we were this song you are singing is for the drivers who. So red means stop. Us who are not drivers. Do you get my argument?
Yes, please.
Yes, madam.
So for pedestrian, red for pedestrians, red means what?
Stop.
Stop.
Yeah. I've lost.
And now your line is breaking.
Okay, so I was asking for pedestrian. Red means what?
Go.
Stop.
No, stop.
Okay.
Stop.
No, madam, when the traffic light turns on red, the pedestrian can cross the road, but the cars will stop.
No. All right. Now, language powers communication. Language powers communication. And of course, how will communication be achieved if language is not incorporated? It is through language that communication is powered. And through our symbolic representation, through the rule book like grammar and syntax, and all the paradigmatic issues and syntagmatic issue we talked about, okay? So communication is powered by language. If you want to communicate and you don't use language, either by voice or by symbols, you will not communicate, or by gestures, okay? So language is not just the vocal manifestation, but also gestures, the signs and symbols. These are all language. So imagine if all these were absent, how will we communicate? So it is language that powers communication. And these are possible because of symbolic representation, because of grammar, and all that. So, for instance, language provides a structure that allows for displacement. This is the ability to communicate about things that aren't in front of us. Yes, we can use language to talk about things that are even yet to happen, things that have happened in the past, and things happening now, things that are not in front of us, things that are a bit distant or afar. Language is such a great resource to the human race. So that's why we say language incorporates communication. Its goal eventually is to communicate. All right. So maybe somebody wants to communicate there is danger or danger ahead of you. In order to communicate that, they may put together language like there is danger ahead of you. There is danger at the junction. A car is speeding towards you. You know, all that is communicating danger, but we probably will use different resources and put them together to communicate that. So the end goal is danger now, or danger, impending danger, but the resources may differ and we may still communicate that. That is how resourceful language is. Now, language also has a social contract, what we call the pragmatics. When we're looking at the hierarchy of language, we mention pragmatism and we refer to it as the social context of language. So language incorporates the social context of communication. It isn't just what you say, but how you say it based on who you were talking to. This includes, and we mentioned when we're looking at the vocal elements, tone, intonation, pitch modulation, register, you know. So for instance, you meeting a colleague and saying, hey, or hi, and you meeting your superior and saying, good morning, sir, or good morning, ma'am. Why? Because the context and the people in that communication space are determining what choice of words and tone you should use. Okay. Are you following?
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
All right. Now, words sometimes you can have implicit meaning. So when you speak, depending on your context, your environment, your goal of communication and all, you have to consider all these things and then you know what to say. So for instance, language makes it possible for us to make implicit meaning by considering your context. Remember, we are talking about the pragmatics of it. It's cold in here. Let's say you are with your little brother or sister in an air-conditioned room. And then this little boy or girl goes like, it's cold in here. Immediately, you will know that you are not, they don't just want to communicate the weather in the room. But it goes beyond that, right? What additional information that is implicit to his coding here? What would be the additional information that you get from this little girl or boy?
Madam,
Mm-hmm.
maybe indirectly, she is telling you to turn off the AC.
Okay, or increase the temperature. All right. So that's it. Or even close the window. If, for instance, it's not an air conditioned room, but the place is cold. So language don't just communicate the direct meanings of the words as determined to it by society, but sometimes, depending on the context and circumstances happening, language can carry implicit meanings. Okay. And that is also key in societal practices. There have been several instances where we've told people, this person is not smart, crowd, because they did not get the implied meanings of our words or sentences, because they could not decipher the context we were in and what we said. Is that clear?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So that's communication and pragmatics. Pragmatics, looking beyond the words or the sounds that have been spoken, considering your environment, your society, and everything happening there, and then making meaning of the words, sounds that have been communicated. Our very last slide is communication again allows for feedback loop. Language does not just transmit thoughts, it shapes them. Now, let me draw your attention to something. There have been many instances where we are speaking, and by virtue of the words we are selecting and the people around and all that, we tend to change the words we would have used after you. Or context, and the person to or will realize that you are changing the way the things that enough we are like, oh, I can't find a better way. I'm trying to. This is because language has a way of shaping our thoughts. Okay. As you speak, as you try to communicate and you are selecting, remember, there's a whole mechanism from your brain through to your speech organs. Remember the issue of your lungs pumping air. All that is happening within space of seconds and all that, such a short period of time. But in that short time is also your ability to think through your words and then go like, okay, let me use that and not that. Let me not insult. Let me add please so that it communicates that. All that kind of permutation happens. Okay. So it is believed that as you speak, language can shape your thoughts. Haven't we said to people, or haven't we heard people say to people, when you speak, you don't think about it, because for every human, as you speak and think through it, you shape the things you say. Do you agree? If you disagree, then you can give me your thoughts on that. Do you agree?
Yes, madam.
Okay. We are coming to the end of the class. And briefly, I'll just summarize everything that we've done. Today, we've been looking at introduction to English and specifically to language. We've looked at the definition of language. We've looked at the structuralist, the generative, the functionalist. We've also looked at the key elements of language, and there are about 5 of them, 5 yes. We looked at system, we looked at communication, which is the last one. We've looked at the vocal elements of it. We've looked at the arbitrariness of it. I think I've mentioned all of them. Systems, arbitrariness, vocal elements, communication, and what? Communication and what? And symbolism. And symbolism. And these elements to communicate. Okay. So God willing, when we meet again, by then I'm
stand up for me to sit. Pape, stand up. You are the youngest. Me, I won't stand up. I have a World Cup. World Cup here. Are you all looking at me?
This particular slide too will be uploaded. Any clarification you need or any question you want to ask? Any question, please? Please respond at the chat. And kindly respond at the chat section. Any question? Do you have any question? Can you respond to this question at the chat section?
No, please.
Mr. Gilbert, do you have a question?
No, please.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to upload the slide on the LMS. Peter, I will. Samuel, okay. You're welcome, Peter. Those who are not typing means you have questions, please ask. We have 3 minutes. All right, since you have no questions, I think we'll call it a day. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, madam.
Bye. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Thank
Bye.
you very much.
See you next week.
Bye.